Welcome to Veg-a-bond Chronicles, and today's subject is just going to be something that I've noticed while being homeless. All right, I've been homeless since December. I'm lucky enough to be able to stay at the Salvation Army. Again, for those who don't know, if you are homeless and you're at the Salvation Army, you can't be doing drugs. All right. When you first go there, you take a piss test and a drug screen, all right? If you're under the influence of both of those drugs, you're not let in, all right? If you are, under the influence of one of those drugs, you're allowed to stay there and clean yourself up, all right? Another thing that I've noticed while living at Salvation Army or being homeless in general, right? Racism exists. All right. I've made a video about this man named Anthony and how he's black, and I have no problem with color. I've been in the military, and we were taught not to see color. Obviously, my parents had a lot to do with that also, where they didn't see color also. So racism is bred into people. The reason I say that is because of living down here in South Texas, right? Like the border is 10 minutes from here in a vehicle, right? Like that close. And Anthony wasn't able to stay at a nursing home because of the color of his skin. Obviously, they all teamed up against him and made it seem like, oh, well, your insurance isn't good here. He wasn't allowed to stay there. So that's one thing I've noticed is racism. Again, some of the black people that come through the Salvation Army, they don't want there. We can sit here and say, oh, how terrible, but it is terrible. But they do it in a way where it's sneaky, right? That's just how it is. It's not in your face racism, right? They just give you bullshit, lame excuses. And this man that was at the Salvation Army, he was following the rules, just like everybody else, just like myself, following the rules. And the rules are obviously no drugs, no shenanigans. You do your chores and you behave and everything will be kosher, right? That's the same rules that apply to all of us, and those are the rules that we all followed. So racism is something that exists, right? And this man lives in Mexico, and he didn't have this problem in Mexico, right? But he came here to the US and he saw firsthand racism. And he told me, I've never experienced this in my whole life. And I told him, well, you know what, brother? It's because most of your life you've been able to sustain yourself with being a dentist. This man is a dentist, right? He donated to the Salvation Army for many years. He donated furniture and things like that. And he gets treated this way. It's the people, right? And it's here. It's bred into these people, Mexican Americans, or also people from Mexico are also that way. Okay, he just didn't experience it over there, which is fine, but he experienced it here. He's out in the streets again. His daughter had to help him with getting a place for the weekend, right? He called this other place down a couple hours away from here, another town, another city. And, the people at the Salvation Army, like homeless people like myself, they told him, hey, bro, if you go over there, it's full of drugs, okay? It's not clean like it is here where we're staying. It's not as clean. watch out. There's a lot of crack houses over there, and there's women that will give you pleasure if you need them to, because they got to get their fix as well. So it's not a great place, but that's where he's headed to. And I build a friendship with this man. I have his number, and I've given him money myself. I've given him a blanket. I've given him some clothes. That's one thing that I have noticed being homeless, is that a lot of us help each other out. We do. We've had people, we've had several women that come to the Salvation Army, and they gave us food, warm food when it was really cold. I'm sure y'all know about the cold, man, that polar vortex, right? So some women got together and they gave us warm soup and other food and some sandwiches and things like that. So we really appreciate that, right? We also had people that came into the Salvation Army and helped with haircuts. Believe it or not, haircuts, right? It's very important. I keep mine really short because I'm not paying 30, 40, 50 bucks, right? If the audio is pretty bad, forgive me, the wind is picking up. Anyways, Monday, this coming Monday, Tuesday, they're going to help people with glasses. So they go there and give you an eye exam, and if they have anything that if they have your subscription, they'll give you free glasses. That's awesome. We all need glasses, right? So those are some things that I've noticed while being homeless. We have good people, great people, and not so great people, right? So other things that I've noticed is that there's gangs, right? People in gangs that are up in the Salvation Army. You can tell who they are. I had them come up to me, and this is who I am. This is, they introduced themselves to me, and the reason why is because I let this man borrow $10. I let him borrow $10. He's like 80 years old, and hey, man, he's 80 years old, and he told me he would pay me back, and I trusted him, right? So I did, and he paid me back that same day. And these gang members, right? They're like, hey, man, I just want to let you know that you can let him borrow money, but he owes my buddy 60 bucks. He doesn't want to pay that back. And I'm like, okay, no problem. I usually let people borrow money once, whether it's $3 or $10. Anyways, this same person, the same gang member, asked me for $3 a couple of days later, and he needed it for the bus. I know that some of you may not want to dish out money to some homeless, but guess what? Every day we have to leave the Salvation Army, every day by 8 or 9 o'clock. Except when it's really, really cold, they really help. They come in and have an extra person so we can stay in there and stay warm. So anyways, this gang member asked me for $3 to get to the bus. And believe it or not, people need $1, quarters for the bus, And it gets expensive every day, right? They have to leave, so that means you have to ride the bus, 50 cents, $1, whatever it is, right? And then you have to have food. So all of that adds up. And how we stay afloat is by donating plasma. So, it's nice weather down here, as you can see. Yes, it got cold, but usually it doesn't really get cold. It's going to be February soon, so it's going to warm up nicely. The sun is staying out longer, so those are all pluses. Another thing I've noticed while being homeless is I've talked to some homeless people that come into Salvation Army for food. So if you're hungry, you go to the Salvation Army. They give you lunch. They also give you dinner. And breakfast is usually for the people who stay at the Salvation Army. That's who gets the food in the morning, right? But the public can come out if you're homeless. You can come out and get your lunch and your dinner, which is good for them, right? It allows them to get warm because it's really cold, right? So they come in and get warmed up. And you know, a good hot meal works wonders when you are homeless. There's times that they give us cold cereal, and guess what? We get cold, right? Cold cereal on a cold day doesn't really add up, right? That's why we prefer some soups or something warm, some oatmeal or something that help us stay warm. Because, you know, as soon as we go out, as soon as we leave the facility, there's no more heat, you know. Another thing that I've noticed is people from Mexico. And I've talked to some of them, and I want you to understand this one thing about some of the people that come from the other side, the not so legals, is that, do you know that these people have to get a loan in their country for about $10,000 or more? Why? Because there is no Mexican from Mexico, male or female, that is going to get to cross the border without paying the cartels. Maybe you didn't know that. I didn't know that either. But guess what? That's something I've learned from being homeless. So when these people obtain this loan from wherever they get it from, somewhere in Mexico, there's predators out there, right? So there's people that, let's say there's a taxi driver. They will overcharge these people because they know they have money. Isn't that crazy? So I'm not being political. I'm just saying, think about what that does to these poor people who are coming across the border. You have to take out a loan, and then you get taken advantage of by taxi people, right? If you need a taxi or a bus, they're going to overcharge you because they can, because there's the demand, right? So everyone's making money off of these illegals. How terrible, right? And then some of these females, right? Right? They have something that certain men want. Unfortunately, it's terrible, right? But that happens. So these people get taken advantage of. So they have to take out a loan to pay the cartel members. You cannot go in or out without paying the cartel members. If there's a person who is from Mexico who has been here in America and made money, you can't not go over to Mexico without leaving something, your truck or money. Hey man, this is the way it is. And maybe some of you Americans like myself didn't know that. But those are some of the things that I've discovered while being homeless. So leave me a like, share, subscribe. If you like what I'm doing, follow me. I'm going to keep making videos. I haven't made a video in about a week because I hate the cold. And I'm not making videos out in the freezing cold. You know what I mean? So forgive me for that, but I will keep you guys posted on what's going on in my life so you guys get a better deal or a better sense of what's really going out in them streets. This is what the mainstream media will not televise. And this is Veg-a-bond Chronicles, keeping you informed with the latest and greatest information from the homeless community. I will see you in a later video.